Thursday afternoon.
A number of underage camogie players says it was surreal to play in front of US President Joe Biden today. As part of his visit to Farmley House, a GA demonstration was put on for President Biden. Underage players from local teams in Castleknock, St Oliver Plunkett's and St Bridget's took part. And these under-12 camogie players from St Bridget's told us what it was like to meet the US President.
He was telling us about his life story, and he told us about his grandchildren and his daughters, and he played soccer and baseball.
Did you have to explain the rules of hurling to him?
No. He just watched us, and I think he picked it up pretty quick.
The union, which represents special needs assistants, says they'll continue to campaign for an improvement in job security. Forza Trade Union says SNAs are still being employed year to year, with some working for 20 years without a permanent contract. Talks between the union and the Department of Education on a new national SNA contract are ongoing. The Humanist Association of Ireland has called for the Angelus to be dropped from the airwaves. The sound of the Angelus bell ringing for 1 minute has been broadcast regularly since 1950. Gillian Brennan, CEO of the HAI, says our society isn't the same now as it was 73 years ago.
The Catholic Church permeated our entire society. So moving on to 2023, you would say Ireland is a much more diverse society now.
It's 7:02.
Newstalk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Swap Irish rain for Italian sunshine with Ryanair's low-fare flights to Pisa, Naples or Rome.
Tomorrow will be a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers, highest temperatures of 9 to 12 degrees. And now you're up to date on Newstalk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
This is Newstalk.
And you're very welcome along to Thursday night's Off the Ball. It's Richie McCormack here with you right through until 10 p.m. this evening. Busy show between now and then on the way. Irish rugby has been accused of having an atmosphere of sexism. We speak to Telegraph journalist Fiona Thomas on what's next for the Irish women's team. She penned that piece today, which has got quite the reaction online since. Allied to that, we'll hear from Grace Davitt and Fiona Hayes on the Women's Six Nations show. They sat down with Aisling O'Reilly earlier on today. Plus, on the football show, we'll talk Napoli's wobbles on the run-in in both Serie A and indeed last night in the Champions League as they took on AC Milan. Plus, it being Thursday, it's only right that we check in and have a look back on the week's football with the one and only John Giles. You can get in contact with us tonight. 53106 is the text number for 30 cents. You can tweet us at Off the Ball. Be delighted to hear from you, particularly on those big issues of the day, which we will get to, I guess, imminently. I'm joined in studio by Will O'Callaghan and also Colin Mullaney for the Newsround this evening. The Newsround is in association with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now. And sadly, Colin, we start with some really, really sad news today.
Yeah, we do, Richie, because the Irish rally driver Craig Breen has died following an accident during a pre-test event in Croatia. Hyundai Motorsport confirmed the news in a statement this afternoon. Breen's co-driver James Fulton was unharmed in the incident that occurred shortly after midday local time. Breen, who was 33 years of age, collected a second place finish in Sweden in February in his first World Rally Championship start of the season. Tributes have been flooding in for the Waterford native, with Motorsport Ireland describing Breen as a model competitor.
Yeah, what can you say about that? Really heartbreaking news to reach us this afternoon. Really, really shocking as well. And one of the most heartbreaking aspects of it, I guess, Will, is that you always figured that the best days of his career were still to come because there was such promise within him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously got back into the World Rally Championship in recent seasons. It was kind of opened up a bit of a relationship between Craig and OTB in recent times as well, where we were getting video diaries that we've been playing out in OTB AM. And then he got the drive with Hyundai. And as Cathal mentioned, the season had started quite well. And what really struck me today was the immediacy of the news coming out from Hyundai after the accident had happened. It was only a few hours after it happened that they had confirmed in that statement, and I was like really, really shocked when I saw it.
You told me in the news because I'm off Twitter, so like suddenly these news items have a massive impact again, whereby you don't just see it rolling in. You hit me square in the face of that one earlier on today. I was like, sorry, what?
Yeah, like it was a buddy of mine who's in the kind of Irish rally scene who had sent me a link earlier on, and then had sent the statement into our WhatsApp group with a few friends of ours, and I just kind of couldn't believe the news at first. Went to just double check everything afterwards, and then just kind of the remark remarkable nature of the news. Now horrible, like for his co-driver to be in the accident as well. Now probably to have to come to terms with the fact that, you know, your buddy, a guy who you've soldiered with in what is an incredibly dangerous sport, and this maybe highlights how dangerous motorsport can be, to have to come to terms with that horrible news, and for his family as well, where he's very, very young at the age of 33 as well. It's horrific news, and one of the most, I think, well-liked guys around when you look at the tributes that have been paid, not just by people in the southeast and around Waterford, but across the country and the motorsport community today as well.
Yeah, well, our thoughts are certainly with everybody involved and affected by that dreadful news today involving Craig Breen. We're going to be talking about this next item, Cathal, in depth on the show, but with the author of the piece that has led to the discussion around it today, and also during the Women's Six Nations show with both Fiona Hayes and Grace Davitt, who sat down with Ash earlier on today. It's had quite the ripple effect, this particular article.
Yeah, so the Daily Telegraph claims to have uncovered an alarming amount of sexism in a special report on the Irish women's rugby team. The report claims players were refused protein supplements in the build-up to the team's historic tour to Japan last year. It also alleges players weren't consulted about the decision to change the colour of the team's shorts. The IRFU has disputed the claims in the Telegraph investigation, and the Ireland head coach Greg McWilliams was asked about the article during a press conference earlier today.
Lots of it's historic, you know, it's the same things that you could have talked about last year. You know, when I met David Nusafora in 2021, I started on the 1st of December. He outlined a plan, and everything that we talked about, we're on track, and that's all we can focus on. You know, I was the only full-time staff member on the 1st of December. We now have 7 full-time staff members. We've 8 contractors that come into us for our competition week. We have 8 new employments along our pathway and our centres of excellence. So, like, there's been a massive growth in that time. And to be honest with you, talking about things historically is we can't control, and we can't control the external noise. We can control what we can do.
Greg McWilliams, the Ireland head coach, speaking ahead of Saturday's Women's Six Nations game with Italy in Parma. I guess the timing of this article is one thing, 2 days out from an international which Ireland need to win, both for themselves and for the competition as a whole, I guess. And also, as Greg alluded to there is a lot of issues that the IRFU have countered, saying that they've already dealt with them. So there will be a full-time nutritionist who's been brought on board since February. I believe they'd have obviously dealt with the contractual issues, and they would have had to deal down towards the end of last year. But that doesn't, and those decisions and those appointments don't change a culture, and a culture is a far harder thing to turn around.
What struck me as well, Richie, about this, I take Greg McWilliams' point where he came in at the tail end of the unsuccessful qualification bid for the World Cup last year, and so therefore he's been in place while a lot of these changes have been accelerated over the last 12 months in particular, and even I would say probably the last 7 or 8 months, as Greg mentioned, about being only the one full-time employee at that point. But doesn't it also say something that not that long before these changes have taken place, so Ireland were going into a World Cup qualification bid where the World Cup was a central tenet of the RFU's plan between 2018 and 2023 was to qualify for the Women's World Cup, and they didn't have full-time staff members in key areas of their coaching team. Yeah,
that's the worry. There's several worrying aspects from it. I think the kind of headline grabbers are like a senior member or senior figure, I guess, in Irish rugby saying who gives an F about our women's rugby, and I'm sure our Twitter mentions are probably alive with that kind of similar nonsense as well as even. But also, I guess it's the lack of consultation, be it on the contracts, be it on the. It seems like a small thing, but for them to just go bullheaded hand in hand with their kit supplier and say we're changing the colour of the shorts for a quick PR win, your players need to be involved in those decisions, and that doesn't speak well to the environment that still exists regardless of the positive changes that have been
also
made.
When it comes to the shorts, certainly the feeling was that was the mood coming from the camp, is that they wanted to make the change, as opposed to it being a PR decision, or that Canterbury felt that they wanted to go to navy shorts as opposed to wearing white. And maybe looking at where it had been positively received with some other major teams that have done so recently. I'm thinking of like the England women's soccer team, who were much further down the road about the acceleration of the process than the Irish rugby team are right now. I would think as well, when it came to the comment which was allegedly overheard, I wonder if there's not a certain amount of that feeling among Irish rugby. where the men's game is going to have to subsidise this. We've spoken with this a million times. Like the women's team are not going to be revenue generators to be able to actually fund the programme that's required to try and close the gap, particularly to France and England, and now Wales as our nearest competitors here, but also to some of the big international teams. So therefore there will be a feeling that, you know, money is going to have to be diverted towards that. And I wonder if that's maybe not a feeling somewhere among the Irish rugby community that that's actually the case.
The rugby is going to have a massive financial issue regardless. Like we were talking about this earlier on. Cardiff over in Wales, and Wales has their own unique set of circumstances whereby they brought in their altered contracts. So basically they have a salary cap, but there are certain clubs who have certain players who still have to have contracts that are already existing honoured, because that's what a contract is.
Or you try and encourage the players to leave before their contract.
Exactly, but they're in a situation, I think Cardiff were saying that they need a playing pool of around 38 to get through a season, and they're just not going to be able to afford that. And you're going to see that trickle down, whether it's, and that's a top level club or a top level region essentially in Wales. That's going to happen in England, and if and when the money runs out as regards television in France, it's going to happen there. It's going to happen all over the world. So rugby needs to find sustainable ways to kind of to basically fund itself going forward, because the amount being asked of players is only ever increasing, whereas the amount of money needed for that isn't going up concurrently. And won't.
But also naturally, if you're a player at a club right now, and obviously with the male game here, where contracts are going to be, you know, a bit more expensive, you are going to go and try and get the best deal that you possibly can, and you can't begrudge any player for trying to get, you know, as much of a return as they can within a short career. And at the same time, as you say, costs are going up, but also you look at the South African teams in Europe, and some of the crazy stuff that was going on, where they were coming home for like a day and a half and then having to travel back via the Middle East to come back to Europe to play games in the Champions Cup and in the Challenge Cup. That's not sustainable longer term.
And with gate receipts not being exactly brilliant either. Like we saw with South African teams in certain competitions that they're playing in, like clearly fans have priorities in what they want to spend their money on, and that's absolutely fine. Seeing competitions that are supposedly high ranking played out in front of very few fans can only last for so long.
You're a URC fan right now, Richie, and you see the squads that Munster and Leinster have sent, which are largely developmental over the next couple of weeks. Leinster in particular, who like should be a big draw if you're a South African rugby fan, to see a team who are already into the semi-finals in Europe and
packed with most of the Grand Slam winning team of Ireland.
And they've got, you know, first seeding and whatever else. But the fact of the matter is that they're giving under 20s a chance to play, and I think Jason Jenkins was the only player who was in the match day squad against Leicester who has travelled to go to South Africa. Fans aren't stupid. They know they're being sold a pup with what they're watching over the next couple
and they also need, but the rugby also needs to do that, because it can't keep like flogging essentially the same 20 lads, because they're going to retire at the age of 27, 28 and you won't have them anymore. It's a very, very tricky situation that rugby finds itself in financially. I think the IRFU have solid foundations, and the way they're set up is a little bit more insulated perhaps than being subject to the whims of television broadcasters, etc. But again, altering a culture and altering that notion of sexism around the place is going to take a lot more than just, you know, random appointments here and there and giving them prominence in bulletins, etc. But Ciara in Dublin's been one of the texters onto us so far, saying not sure what to make of Greg McWilliams' reaction to this. Feel for him to be put in that position on the one hand, but he was a bit unnecessarily bullish too. I think, in fairness, he's trying to concentrate on the game and has had this report landed in his lap 48 hours beforehand, and it's taking up all of the bandwidth when we should be, you know, focusing on events on the pitch in Parma. And to that end, Cathal, we do have a team for Saturday.
Yeah, and there are 3 changes to the Ireland team for that game against Italy on Saturday. Lauren Delaney starts at full back, while Anna McGann makes her first senior start in the centre, and then scrum half Elisa Hughes is also in for that match in Parma on Saturday. McWilliams keeps faith with the pack that started in that defeat to France in round 2.
We haven't even gotten to the most important issue of the day here on Off the Ball, which is Will O'Callaghan has bolted early, not out the door, but he has decided on this April 13th, 2023.
It's probably good news that there's panels in front of us, Richie.
Did you get the yams out for President Biden, or was it just wearing the shorts for just because of the weather. Will O'Callaghan, ladies and gentlemen, April 13th with the temperature, whatever it is, probably about 11, 12 degrees outside.
About 12 degrees when I left.
Rocking shorts.
And the wind and everything. I actually
wind.
closed the window in the office there earlier. It was that cold.
There was great drying out, Will, and you've come out and decided to put the shins and the calves on show.
I know, especially when I've got a jumper on the top half as well.
Doesn't make sense.
The weather was really nice at home this morning, and I was tricked into a false sense of security when there was no wind at home, and the weather was quite nice. Now it was only about 12, 13 degrees, I'd say, but I went, you know what? I'm going to wear my shorts, do my bits and bobs in the morning before I go to Dublin. And then the minute that I got on the train to go to Dublin, the rain started to come down, the wind started to pick up, and I was like, I have made a bad choice. I would be the first one mocking other members of the office, Richie, so I take your slag.
I'm just like, it surely takes a couple of sustained days where you've like, do you know what, the jeans or whatever have been too sweltering. I'm going to go with the shorts.
Wasn't there a weather warning yesterday or something?
There's weather warnings all the time. That one was cancelled, I think, on Twitter.
Cian, who operates a lot of our digital stuff, saying, I've beaten Will by at least 2 months. Come on now. People are losing the run of themselves here.
Yeah, I mean, some of the OTB team wear shorts continually.
I get to a point whereby I hit the shorts and I stay there for
exactly. You commit
summer.
to it, don't you?
Exactly, but like it's usually in decent weather, and it usually takes a few days of. Do you know what? The same way you struggle without a coat for a few days when it gets to like October, and you're like, it's time to pull out the big guns here now, and you pull out the big winter coat. Similarly, you wait for a few days before pulling out the shorts. You've just gone rogue.
I have. I should have mothballed the shorts for another month probably. I think it should be really 20 before you get into shorts.
Doesn't even need to be here. You can like mid-teens, high teens, but like low wind and high humidity.
I took a risk, Richie, and it's gone wrong.
Well, sometimes we have to learn by our mistakes.
We do. We learn and grow, don't we?
We do. 4 or 5 degrees tonight when you're leaving, by the way. Just putting that out there. We have had news of a significant contract extension as well here today, Cathal.
Yeah, that's right. James Lowe has signed a new deal with Leinster, though the length of the extension hasn't been specified. Lowe joined Leinster in 2017, has since gone on to win 4 league titles as well as the Heineken Champions Cup in 2018. 20 Ireland caps as well for James Lowe at international level. Played a key part in this year's Grand Slam success. And Ronan Kelleher has also signed a new deal with the province, with that deal announced earlier on this evening. And James Ryan and Josh van der Fleer have also agreed new contracts in recent weeks.
Not to take away from them, why are you laughing?
We've had text in, rather unsurprisingly, at the bombshell news that you were wearing shorts on this April 13th, 2023.
People cared enough to text 53106
with the temperature dipping to 5 and 6 degrees this evening. One anonymous texter, they haven't had the braveness put their name beside this opinion. Shorts!
Exclamation mark.
That's scandalous. There should be a no shorts rule. I wouldn't go full fash on the saying there shouldn't be any shorts because of been prone to wearing shorts myself. But again, you wait for the weather. No, middle of April and it's still cold out.
Why no shorts rule?
I don't know.
Just because it's too early, or is this no shorts in general ever?
They haven't added to the point that there should be no. I think they're being rather, staunch in this and saying no shorts ever, which I think is harsh. I'm not going with this.
Especially on the radio. If no one had drawn attention to this, no one would know. Or on YouTube, nobody would know right now. Do
you want to stand up and give us a twirl?
Absolutely not.
No. Paul has also texted, to your point, Will, saying, weather was nice at home. Where's he flown in from? What's your carbon footprint like, William?
Well, no, yeah, exactly. No, I came
You're like
from
these Premier League teams.
Well, it was far more sustainable today than normal.
Yeah. You said you didn't come in from like Lanzarote.
No.
Menorca.
But Offaly was quite nice earlier on. I took the train, closed for Biden, and I was pleasantly surprised it was actually easy enough to get around the city when I arrived.
And people wonder what legacy John Mahon has left on the county.
Yeah, exactly. In fairness, Mahon will be wearing short shorts. I'm wearing shorts that go down
February.
Yeah. Christmas Day. No, these shorts go down beyond my knees. These Mahon would be given out about the length.
You're not committing to the role, pretty much. Keith in Galway says men's success in rugby is the only thing making the IRFU look way worse in their treatment of the women's game. I don't know. I don't think they can be held accountable for the success of the men's team.
No, but Fiona's article did make a nice contrast between that, which is the men's team are top of the world and the women's team are potentially going to get the wooden spoon in the Six Nations.
There's also an element of this whereby such is the standing start from which they're going in terms of their reforms, that the women's team, unfortunately, on the playing front, are just going to have to take their lumps for a year or two, and that's an ugly thing to have to admit.
Yeah,
there's possibly a bit of truth to it. We've probably seen it borne out.
The average caps is I think 6 for this weekend. It was less than 10 for the France and Wales games too. And like Anna McGann again has gone between the 15s programme, the 7s programme, now back into playing 15s for this week. Is in a different position in playing in midfield as well. So growth pains you are going to experience when a new generation is coming through as well.
Yeah, sadly. Keep the text coming on Will Shorts 53106. Was he right or wrong? We should get a Twitter poll going on this one. Twitter poll, Arthur, by the end of the news round. Shorts, yes or no? He says no.
Yeah, I think he's right.
That's not the proper use of social media.
The producer says move on.
I think this next one's a positive step as regards the Premier League. It might be a little bit harder to actually police, though, Cathal.
Yeah, Premier League clubs have agreed to withdraw gambling sponsorship from the front of their matchday shirts from the 2025-26 season. 8 top-flight teams currently have betting companies on their strips in deals worth an estimated £60 million a year. Gambling brands will still be able to feature on shirt sleeves or advertising hoardings around stadiums.
It's a step in the right direction, yeah, you'd have to say. If only from an aesthetic point of view, because I often find that gambling sponsors are the ugliest sponsors on jerseys.
The numbers have been dropping as well.
I think they probably saw this coming to a degree.
I think so. And I think you don't voluntarily, because it was the league clubs that have voted to bring this in from 2026, you don't voluntarily do it without thinking that there's money to be made elsewhere. If they felt that they had to keep this, you can be sure the vote would have been very different. But it was half the clubs in 2016, which is down to now. You mentioned 6, Call at the moment. 8 at the moment, so that's obviously a drop by a couple of clubs already.
I think relegation had something to do with that, because I think Watford were one of the teams
Stoke.
People like that. Yeah.
2 clubs are out of contract with their gambling sponsor at the end of the season. But as Cathal mentions, it doesn't mean that you couldn't move from the front of the shirt to the sleeve or have it around the hoardings or still keep these companies involved. Or I'm sure at some point the Premier League will probably facilitate extra sponsors. I think on the back of the jersey is inevitable, it will happen at some point. This is very carefully worded that it is the shirt front and only the shirt front.
Yeah, you're probably going to see stuff along the back. The absolute nadir for this used to be Scandinavia. I think Norway in particular would have like 3 or 4 different sponsors on the shorts alone.
France and Brazil love it as well.
Yeah, and they'd have them all over like like sides of sleeves, tops of sleeves, backs of shoulders. I think France, as you mentioned as well. I remember, I think was it like Casino Salzburg, I remember watching playing in Europe before they had like really stringent views on sponsorship, and their gear was butchered because I think it was Casino Salzburg. It was one of the Salzburg teams had a sponsor across the backside on the shorts.
It's all prime.
It's a difficult sell, that, isn't it?
It's prime real estate, no matter where you put it, because of the TV figures. But surely you lose a bit by having too many. That surely detracts from the value for someone having a main sponsor.
It's not as eye-catching.
Yeah.
But similarly, like how does the commercial manager with the club deal with that call? It's like, all right, we have a sponsorship opening for X team, Bloomby United. And it's like, okay, Grant, we're in front of Jersey. That's taken. We've got a 5-year contract on that one's worth 10 million. Our sleeve, no. Suddenly you will have that conversation. How would you like? It's a unique opportunity we're offering you this one. Now we're broaching new ground with this. The bum.
Yeah.
Cathal says yes.
How much can clubs actually make from their kit, I wonder?
Loads.
In terms of millions per season.
Infinite.
Yeah.
When clubs like Man United have an official tractor sponsor, it can be done.
Yeah.
We need an official tractor sponsor for Off the Ball.
I think Off the Ball was on the Sligo Rovers kit. Not so long ago.
Yeah.
No pressure, Agent Barry. It took him long enough to get the crappy quiz sold.
Can we get a tractor?
Sold.
I want a free tractor. Right.
Sure, it can be done.
53106. Good man Will, same as him today, would wear shorts all year round if I could, says Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
There you go. The Twitter poll will be opened, I'm sure, before the evening is through. It was Will right to go with the shorts today.
It's a resounding no, but Brian and I are sitting here comfortable in our shorts. Not going to be so comfortable when I leave the office at about half time. But look,
or even when you have to go up to the 5th floor to get a coffee in the next half hour. This is bound to have repercussions. We had this story, I think, yesterday evening on the Newsround in the wake of Bayern Munich's defeat to Manchester City. In the year of our Lord 2023, this kind of thing still happens. It is almost charming in a way if it wasn't so ugly.
Yeah, Bayern have suspended Sadio Mane for punching teammate Leroy Sané following Tuesday's Champions League defeat to Manchester City. The former Liverpool forward won't play in this weekend's game against Hoffenheim, and he'll also be fined. He's understood to have hit Sané in the face after the German title holders lost 3-0 in the away leg of their quarter-final.
I wonder if there's because they do have dressing room footage now. There's from place to place, so I wonder if that exists somewhere.
It's quite good photography of them on the pitch, close to blows at that point.
Yeah, I think it was
so obviously had to follow on.
7 minutes from time. Apparently Mane wasn't happy with how he was spoken to by Sané on the pitch, and they took that into the dressing room, with Mane going so far as to lamp Sané in the mouth. It's just bizarre. It shows the nuts nature of Bayern Munich, and it's always
Liverpool
it's always
have to be licking their lips, Richie, at the potential here
of getting them back for 5-0.
Yeah.
Do you want them back now?
I don't know, they have too many forwards and midfielders anyway. But this is the problem.
Can he play right back, Will?
If this was dangled in front of him, in front of Liverpool, and FSG were going, we sold him for that much last year, he's available for 30 million now. Yeah. What should we do?
Well, hopefully he can turn into a 23-year-old N'Golo Kante. Then he might be some use to them. We do have football, of course, going on live tonight. We will be keeping tabs on events at Old Trafford.
Yeah, and Manchester United's manager Erik ten Hag says everyone will need to deliver their best performance if they're to win at home to Sevilla in tonight's first leg of the Europa League quarter-final. Their opponents are 6-time winners of the competition, and ten Hag says the Spanish side's reputation in the tournament speaks for itself.
They won the Europa League the most of all clubs in Europe. So that is a magnificent record. So we have to be aware of it because that's their target. And we are sure they are 100% motivated to go again.
There you go. That's Erik ten Hag. We also have action in the Conference League, which is underway. 5:45, wasn't it?
Yeah, so 78 minutes played now. West Ham won, Ghent won in their quarter-final tie. West Ham took the lead there through Danny Ings just before half-time, but the home team pulling one back, so it's a 0-0 there after 78 minutes. And in the Europa League, one match underway there as well. Feyenoord lead Roma by a 0-0.
We've had plenty of texts in as regards the kits. Chris says, serious question, if clubs aren't going to do something that loses the money, what are the alternative sponsors going to be? We're hardly going back to McEwen's and Newcastle Brown, says Chris. Yeah, good point. I think there's a broad scope. I don't think we're necessarily just back in beer and food sponsors like we were back in the day, or white goods, as Owen points out as regards Liverpool.
So do you know what's going to be? Owen's not said it, crypto.
I don't think. Yeah, there's already been issues with crypto and Inter earlier on this season, whereby the first payment for their jersey was late. It's not a good sign.
And arrived in crypto.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. Steve has also been on saying, Paddy's Day, shorts on, November 1st, back to long pants.
November?
That's regimented. November 1st.
It's a window that doesn't factor in the actual weather on the given day. Yeah. I respect the zealotness for wearing the shorts. But
100% anonymous texter asks, did a boxer sell advertisements on the soles of their boots? Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
So, I mean, you necessarily have to get knocked out for value for the company.
100%, because the theory is you are going to get in the year 2000 and your name is Julius Francis and you're fighting Mike Tyson. Yeah. You're going to get knocked spark out.
May as well
so
make
when
some
you do, might as well make some bank for your brain injury.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go. Julius Francis did that in the year 2000. Sold the mirror on the soles of his...
Which, doesn't seem that ridiculous when you saw yesterday that Nate Diaz is going to fight Jake Paul.
It's a sports show, Will.
I know, but it's just...
And we're not even talk about Jeff Hardy returning to AEW, and you bring that nonsense in here. What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me at all? Will, go on and put on some long trousers, will you? Cathal, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Newsround. Updates on Newstalk here tonight from Cathal. Cash machine time.
Your chance to win big. Newstalk's Cash Machine.
So far in 2023, we've had 32 winners from 17 counties win over €1.3 million between them. And we're not stopping there. Why would we? This week, we're giving away someone an opportunity to win a life-changing amount of cash. The amount you need to know tonight is very straightforward. €70,000 exactly. God. €70,000. 7 and 4 zeros. Text play